for the pandemics of the future. That would be profoundly dangerous for all of us. Progress on AIDS, which was already off track before COVID, is now under even greater strain as the COVID crisis continues to rage, disrupting HIV prevention and treatment services, disrupting schooling, disrupting violence prevention programs, and much more. On our current trajectory, we are not bending the curve fast enough, and we risk an AIDS pandemic lasting decades. We have to move faster on a set of concrete actions agreed by member states to address the inequalities that drive HIV. Through fighting the AIDS pandemic, we have learned a lot about what we need to do more of to end AIDS and what we need to do for all pandemics as well. We urgently need sufficient community-led and community-based infrastructure as part of a strong public health system that's underpinned by robust civil society accountability. This is a prerequisite. We need policies to ensure fair and affordable access to science. Every new technology should reach each and everyone who needs it without delay. We need to protect our health workers and to expand their numbers to meet our urgent health needs. We must protect human rights and build trust in health systems and all public systems. It is these that will ensure that we close the inequality gaps and end AIDS. But they are too often applied unevenly, they are underfunded, and they are underappreciated. On this World AIDS Day, I salute the frontline communities who have pioneered the approaches shown to be most effective, who have driven the momentum for change, and who are pushing our leaders to be bold. I urge you, activists, communities, keep pushing. And world leaders, let us work together urgently to tackle these challenges head on. I urge you, be courageous in matching your words with deeds. There is not a choice to be made between ending the AIDS pandemic that is raging today and preparing for the pandemics of tomorrow. The only successful approach will achieve both. As of now, we are not on track at all to achieve either. If we take on the inequalities which hold back progress, we can deliver on the promise to end AIDS by 2030. It's in our hands. Every minute that passes, we are losing a precious life to AIDS. We cannot afford that. We don't have time. Let's tackle inequalities. Let's end AIDS. Let's prevent all future pandemics.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning to you, Uganda, and welcome to December. Fast December 2021 is where you are. This morning time check is 6:35. And as we start off here in Good Morning Uganda, of course, we all know that Fast December is always celebrated as World AIDS Day. 40 years ago, the first AIDS case was reported, and now here we are still fighting this epidemic. The question is, how are we still fighting with an epidemic 40 years later? Well, the answers are in the theme for the World AIDS Day. Inequality When you end inequality, you will end AIDS, and when you end AIDS, you will end other pandemics. Of course, we all know that the other pandemic the world globally is struggling with is COVID-19. But if we are to avoid any other pandemics to come forth, we better create equality when it comes to services. We better create equality when it comes to communities engaging in such conversations that may be hard to bite, but then if they do bite on them, they actually will cause change, and that change will actually help us avoid the social and economic crisis that so far we have tested in the last 24 months because of COVID-19. Today we celebrate World AIDS Day. Today we celebrate people that are living positive lives with HIV/AIDS. And today, we want to let you know that you don't have to be among the numbers. You can make a better decision so that you're not part of the statistics. Of course, UNAIDS' mission is to end AIDS by the year 2030. The big question is, how possible is it? Well, we continue on to the journey. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga. We'll be answering that question later. But for now, on Good Morning Uganda, I do have the fantastic three joining me. And in one way or another, they are showing their solidarity to those that are living with HIV/AIDS. I am wearing a red. You do have Robert wearing a red. Molin Kenyana has a deep red. And then Felix Nkunda has red inside him through his blood veins. Okay, so good morning to you, Robert. How are you?
I'm very fine. Grateful to the Lord. It is the 1st of December, the final month of the year. And of course, so much has happened. But we are here by His grace. And of course, there being World AIDS Day, I'm also grateful for the strides we've made as a country in the fight against HIV/AIDS, because Uganda is ranked among the top 10 countries in the world that have made tremendous strides in the fight against HIV/AIDS, with of course a few challenges, but that is something to be grateful of.
And you're wearing a red ribbon.
Definitely, this is to show solidarity, but also to create more awareness. And my message is, know your status. That is my message today for anybody there. Know your status. If you're negative, stay negative.
Yeah.
If you're positive, go and begin treatment.
All right.
Because we've seen people leave, the likes of Major Ranga, we've seen the likes of many ambassadors, talk about Reverend Canon Gideon. So many are there that give tremendous stories 30 years down the road with HIV/AIDS and still counting.
Good morning to you, Molin Kenyana, and happy World AIDS Day.
Well, good morning to you as well. Yes, as we talk about World AIDS Day, and I like the message that Winnie Byanyima is sending across. And what she said that really spoke to me, and I quote, she said, without the inequality fighting approach we need to end the pandemic COVID-19, the world would still end the pandemic and be unprepared for future pandemics. And much of the emphasis on the inequality fighting approach, meaning that there are vulnerable people living in villages with HIV, and there is need to gear more efforts towards how can we help them? How can we make sure that they have, the help they need to also make sure that those living with HIV feel supported, and also more of the masses, I think, being educated about HIV so that we can prevent future infections. So I think that was really powerful of her to put across such a message. And it also speaks to the fact that everyone is coming together to fight what is likely to be a future pandemic if we do not fight it now.
All right. He may not have something to show solidarity for World AIDS Day, but the blood that runs through his veins is red, and that is solidarity enough. Good morning to you, Felix Nkunda.
Good morning, Priscilla. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Well, I'm awesome. And of course, in preparation of this day, very much activities have been done, and some of them we took part of them. Yesterday, me and my colleagues, we had to go for a blood test to try and promote the Go Red message for the men, that look at having one single partner. That's a way of avoiding the spread of HIV or break the sexual network. So we did go to make our tests, and gladly all of the men came out happy from the clinic where we went. So it's another fuss and also need that you know your status, as Robert said, because that's the only way you can break the chain of the spread of the AIDS virus. Now, it's something also not easy. We need to work with societies and probably build confidence more with people about knowing their statuses. As Robert again said, that many people have come out to give stories, success stories, about them having AIDS and how they've been able to survive over the years. So it's important for everyone out there to know your particular status and do that for your people, for your children, for your family, for your wife, for your husband. And at least when you're in the know, there's more probably the ability for you to survive. So I think I will celebrate this day. On top of the ending the inequalities, there is much we must do as our own communities. Making such knowledge closer to people is one of the ticks we need.
All right, there's definitely much that we can do in our communities, especially for the leaders, which then leads us to the question, do you know your status? Do you know if you're positive or negative? Well, there's only one way to find out. Felix has found out. The rest of us may have to refer to, outdated results. But we want to hear from you. If you have ever gone for an HIV and AIDS, status checkup, what was your experience like for the first time? You can send us a WhatsApp on the 0706 90 25 62. You will be able, it's going to appear on your screen. We want to hear your stories. Then after, we will share our own stories of the first time of, being told you have to go get an HIV test. Like, hey, no, is it necessary? No. Even if you're as innocent, as a lamp, nevertheless, the pressure of being told to go for an HIV test is cumbersome. So first, let us know what your experience was, and then later on, the team here will also share what their first experiences were with the HIV/AIDS testing. But for now, allow us to go through the last 24 hours, both locally and internationally.
And we will begin with the UPDF forces which performed a joint operation with the Congolese army against the ADF rebels in Eastern Congo, in a move aimed at reducing the powers and eradicating the Allied Democratic Forces. The Uganda People's Defense Forces and the Democratic Republic of Congo forces jointly conducted an airstrike and artillery on the ADF's main camp in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The early morning strike focused on the ADF's base in Eastern Congo. The UPDF spokesperson, Brigadier Flavia Bekwaso, confirmed this development but declined to give deeper information into the matter and operation. The UPDF, together with the Congolese army, have this morning conducted an air and ground strike against ADF terrorists. That is a tweet that she posted. The strike targeted Allied Democratic Forces militia, which have been based in Congo since the 1990s and are blamed for killing hundreds of people. According to investigations, the recent wave of terror attacks in Uganda, which have claimed lives and left scores injured, have been orchestrated by this group. Uganda was given a green light by DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi to pursue the ADF terrorists who are on the run and camping in Congo.
In Bara, at least 2 people are confirmed dead and scores critically injured following an explosion that went off in Chisenyi Cell Kakoba division in Bara City. The explosion went off at midday, according to police, and it was caused by scrap dealers who were attempting to cut a gas cylinder. Shock that afternoon engulfed residents of Mbara City following an explosion in Chisenyi Cell that killed 2 people, leaving scores critically injured. The injured are currently admitted at Mbara Hospital, and the deceased were only identified as Becca and Hussein, all scrap dealers in the area. The tragic incident happened at around midday, and according to the police, the deceased were trying to cut the gas cylinder, which eventually burst. This explosion occurred at a time when the country is making strides to recover from the numerous bomb blasts that recently hit Kampala. Here in Bara City, majority had suspected that it was a bomb explosion until police clarified on the mixed speculations. Eyewitnesses told UBC that the deceased were trying to cut the cylinder, which had also been brought in as scrap. Colonel James Mwesije, the resident city commissioner, appealed to the scrap dealers to be careful while buying, more so handling such materials. However, by press time, the bodies of the deceased had been rushed to Mbara Regional Referral Hospital for post-mortem as investigations into the tragic occurrence continue.
And now in politics, NRM diehards from Nalwoga Zone C in Nalwoga Division celebrated after their candidate Christine Namata was nominated for the woman councillorship post in the forthcoming by-elections. The election preparation followed the death of an elected position holder, Sozi Nabale, also the mother to Christine Namata. The Electoral Commission yesterday officially ended registration of aspirants in the next by-elections for councillorship across the country, an exercise which started the previous day. In Nalwoga Division, NRM supporters stormed the Electoral Commission office to escort their party card holder, Nalwoga Zone C representative who seeks to replace her mother, late Sozi Nabale, who stood in this position. Namata was in company of Kampala Central Mayor Salimu Uhuru and other party officials. The celebrations left NUP's flag bearer, who was nominated yesterday, also in utter shock following her arrest on allegation of staging protests in Kampala. By press time, her home was still under siege by police. However, she managed to seek and be able to speak to the press on what had befell her. Elsewhere, supporters of FDC also escorted their candidates, Livia Narumoni, to Ntinda Electoral Commission in Nalwoga Division as she sought nomination for woman councillorship of Mutungo Zone 4.
And now on to our international stories.
And in our first story, we'll be looking at, of course, where we see Greece has become a European port for calls to refugees from Africa and Asia. Now, but in the recent months, authorities have been surprised to find large numbers of Cubans seeking shelter from far home. Well, of course, the issue came to light in October 28th when some 130 Cubans tried to fly from the island of Zeknos in the Ionian Sea to Milan, and of course in northern Italy. Now, it was accidental that too many Cubans met in the same place, said Pedro, 28, who was among them. Usually we try to use lots of different airports. When police saw one Cuban passport after another, they put us all in a separate room. Now, video clips posted by local news outlets showed Cubans in the uproar when police tried to bus them to the local precinct where they were given written orders to leave Greece before being released. Now, unlike mostly Middle Eastern African asylum seekers who set out from Turkish shores in rubber diggings to reach the East Asian island, Cubans do not appear to be shepherded by smugglers. Pedro and his girlfriend Laura flew from Havana to Moscow, where travel is visa-free for Cubans. Now, still international stories. 8 people dead and 8 injured in shooting at Michigan school under Sheffield, comes out to say. A 15-year-old boy in custody after 3 students died and 8 were injured in a shooting that happened on Tuesday at his high school in Oxford, Michigan. Authorities said the Oxford High School students killed were at least 16-year-old boy, a 14-year-old girl and a 17-year-old girl. Auckland County Under Sheriff Michael McBee came out to make mention of the above. Now, 8 others were shot, one of whom is believed to be a teacher. McBee said of the 8 injured, 2 are currently in surgery and the others 6 are in stable condition. Now, in Africa, Lesotho ex-Prime Minister Thomas Thabane charged with murdering of wife. Lesotho's former Prime Minister Thomas Thabane has been charged with the 2017 murder of his estranged wife Lipolelo Thabane. His current wife Messiah was charged with the same crime last year. Now, she was living with Mr. Thabane at the time of the killing, and they are accused of hiring hitmen. They have both denied an involvement in this particular offense.
Turkey, wild storm caused severe wind damage in Turkey. Now, Health Minister Farentin announced in a statement on Twitter that 4 people have died and 38 people have been injured in a severe storm which slammed Turkey's Istanbul and its surrounding areas on Monday, killing nearly 4 people, which include a foreign citizen and the rest are residents. Now, according to the governor's office, this statement came after 4 people had died and 38 injured transferred to the hospital. And according to Daily Sabah News, reports 2 women lost their lives in the massive storm in Istanbul's Seyit and Sultan Gazi districts, along with a construction worker who died with a crumbling wall smashed near. In the northern province of Zangkul, Istanbul's governor office stated that due to the adverse weather conditions caused by southwesterly winds, that has been effective in Istanbul since the morning.
All right, and that gives you a view generally of what's happening both locally and on the international scene, the globe as a whole. But as we said, we would now be sharing our stories of first-time experience of going for an HIV/AIDS test. Robert, I'll start with you. What was your first-time experience like?
I think my first time wasn't problematic, but the second time, because first time we were at school, and that was in senior 4. And we had this group come over, they did some preaching, then they had to carry out HIV tests. So it was okay, it was more of a group, let's go boys, let's go, and it had no issue. But I think the difficult part of it was with my better half, when she said, you know, we need to go for a blood test because it will just mean nothing later on to discover that we cannot continue. So let's do it at the beginning. So that is a time where, yeah, there's a bit of thinking and, but can't we avoid this? Why should we? And,
okay.
But she stuck to that point, and you know when a woman sticks to a point, usually,
yes.
Yeah, you have no alternative. So here we went to Zambia hospital, and then they take the samples, then they cancel you. But what I didn't like is the lady that gave us the results. You know, she comes and she's like, Kirabo, Robert, come, enter this room.
She instills fear in you.
Yeah, then she's like, okay,
yeah,
if you're positive, what will you do?
Yeah, they do that a lot.
Like, if I'm positive, what will you do? Like, okay. Then after she says, you know, stay negative.
Okay.
Like, but that environment she creates, the isolation, you're just giving me results. Come on, say, Robert, here are your results. You're safe. But still there is that element, and I think I just dislike that atmosphere.
All right. Yeah. Well, that definitely has happened a lot, especially, you know, for the medical workers who deal with these tests. They always create that environment of fear in you, and it actually stigmatizes people. Mola and Kedana, was it the same experience you had?
Well, my experience, I was actually young, I think around 13. So we're in holidays, and there was this whole community, you know, testing. So they came home. I was with my parents, so they isolated us. They could take samples, and then they give you results later. So they would call one by one person. Now, at that age, I knew about HIV. I knew, you know, how it's contracted, but for some reason, I heard that it was, you know, a dangerous disease, and I didn't have any reasons to even think I had it. But the way these guys were giving out results, they would call you, and then they're like, Molen, we've tested you, and according to the results that we have, then the doctor looks at the, you know, the paper. You're like, okay, well, how is this supposed to take long? Why are they taking this long pause? And that kind of, you know, it runs through your mind, and then it's like, according to the results, he actually repeats the sentence. I remember that experience so well. He's like, well, it's negative. Like, okay, couldn't you just start with that? and I was young, but that was my first experience. And years later, I realized it's actually a simple thing. Just go taste, get your results. But, you know, I think also health workers should, you know, be a little bit, get the results there out as quick as possible. Don't pause, don't wait. People could just, you know, break because of that.
Well, I'm pretty sure Felix Nkunda never broke when he had his first HIV/AIDS, or am I wrong?
Well, of course, I didn't have much of those when I was young, but when experiences when I grew up, and I remember I went to hospital with my late uncle, Alex, and when we went to hospital, for some reason, I don't even remember why we went there, but we went to check, and when they were checking, I remember it took a long time. Again, I don't know why. And that's about 30, 40 minutes was like the worst time of our lives, because this uncle of mine kept on saying funny things. You know, he liked to tease, he used to be a bully. So he just kept on saying, and I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? He's like,
Traumatizing. It's not a laughing
Mama
matter. Wow.
I'm like, what? Why are you saying these things?
Say that.
He's like, Toina Musikata. I'm like, really?
Wow. That's real stigma. And that's what we want to talk about.
For him, he did it with jokingly and I had to walk away. I didn't even wait for.
Yeah.
So I had to go. Then after I think they called me back. I told me what. Okay, you come. It's like it's okay. Like, but okay, for him it was a joke. He enjoyed just putting
Felix.
me.
No, but
in
you see, that's the challenge.
Felix has just reminded
we need
me
to talk about
what the Uganda.
When you have health workers that are, you know, treating people like that,
No,
you're
wasn't a
already
health
instilling
worker.
stigma in a person, and that's not good. That's not what we want. You know, even if a person is positive, you can't give them that, because already that affects their mental health, and then when they receive the bad news, it's even going to put them in a box, and it's going to cause a lot of havoc for them emotionally, just digesting the news. So health workers, we need to have this conversation.
And you know, another interesting part regarding people knowing their status. I was speaking with a number of counselors and people that carry out these camps, and they tell you men could not pick their results. They come test, but they end up, even when you're reading a person's name and he's there, many are like, I don't want to get my results. But they but they came willingly.
Yeah.
I think that weight of the wait. Because now you're waiting, it is taking an hour.
So they have a bunch of
like,
results no one has collected.
You're like,
But
maybe
also,
I'm positive, and they are, you know, they are looking for ways of telling me this news. So that why should
see, also,
they wait a lot?
The
Some
only
disappear
reason
before
why
they can get results.
people have such kind of thoughts is that they go to hospitals when they have thoughts that probably they could have contracted the virus.
Yeah.
So
it's just a natural fear.
It comes here from there.
I mean, even if it was cancer, by the way, even if it was any other disease, you go with that fear of,
definitely.
Oh, if I have, yeah.
But also,
So
I
that's
think
a
today,
given.
as we celebrate this day, we must also bring it to the attention of Ugandans and everyone out there that there are very many ways now, in terms of technology, in terms of ease of preventing AIDS. Like, for example, nowadays testing is as simple as even probably having it happens. Probably we shall talk about that later. But
Okay, all right. Clearly, we have opened a can of worms. The point is, we are here to actually end inequality, end AIDS, and also end all pandemics by the year 2030. Our poll question this morning is in the line of,
and that is, how can we support people living with AIDS and also prevent new infections of HIV? How can we support people living with AIDS and also prevent new infections of HIV? Hashtag UBCGMU, that is on Twitter, and on WhatsApp 0709602592.
okay, all right. Well, allow us to take a breather and a cup of tea. When we return, we'll definitely continue celebrating World AIDS Day and talking about this medical personnel that put a lot of pressure on our lives.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
Authentically symbolic and insightful.
We should work so hard to evacuate this power.
Behind the headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odong Top.
How to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
Transact and win money after money with Airtel Money. 1.5 billion shillings in cash prizes up for grabs. The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Minutes past 7 a.m. It is World AIDS Day, which is also fast December 2021. Welcome to a new month, but also welcome to Good Morning again. In case you have just tuned in to UBC, your preferred station, here to inspire you this morning. And on the Eastern part, we do have Felix Nkunda, Robert Kirabo, as well as Priscilla Nalwoga, and we are talking more about World AIDS Day, being the voice and engaging in conversations that can actually rhyme with the theme for the year 2021, which is End Inequalities and AIDS and Pandemics. That's the theme for this year. And we want to engage in our poll question, and some of you have already started responding to it, but just a recap of those that have just joined us in our 7 o'clock hour.
And our poll question is, how can we support people living with AIDS and also prevent new infections of HIV? And you can get to comment through our social medias. That is on Twitter, #UBCGMU, and still on our WhatsApp number, which is 0709 60 25 92.
All right, thank you so much, Felix. Of course, we had earlier been sharing our experiences of the first time we actually took an HIV/AIDS test, and Felix was actually the one that was most peculiar. What did the person say again?
No, but just for correction, it was a relative at least.
Okay.
So they used that as a way of teasing and what.
Okay.
But you would be surprised that probably it happens elsewhere, and that's even if it was a relative, I think that's not the right way to go. If in ordinary grammar one would say that was a bad joke, when someone asks you, because that is challenged even up till today. Kirabo told you about people who have stayed with HIV/AIDS for over 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Myself, I know people in our families who have been at least with over 30 years. That one I know for a fact.
Yeah. Well, it's been 40 years since the first AIDS case was reported, and here we continue to soldier on and advocate for AIDS calming history in the entire world. Personally, I have an experience. I did have an auntie who more or less was my caretaker while I was a baby, and then at one point she got the opportunity to go to Sweden. So the last time we parted ways, it was all merry. The next time we met in a casket, when she was in a casket. And may her soul rest in peace, Auntie Baka. But So this particular one is personal to me because I have known and lost a person to HIV/AIDS, and so we want to look at the journey that has been for HIV/AIDS here in Uganda. It's been one of the greatest epidemics that we've had to fight. There was an insurgency at some point in the 80s and the 90s, and the numbers were worrying. People were dropping dead, and there was not much access to treatment and things like that. But it's been some good years, and we've had some good progress in that direction, haven't we, Robert?
We have, but even before I go any further, allow me first to thank these 4 people. I know there are many others there. First is His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. When the world AIDS was a fear, he stood his ground as a president and came out and declared that we have HIV/AIDS in Uganda. Many people at that time felt it wasn't necessary. Some felt it was discrediting Uganda. But that announcement he made attracted sponsorship, attracted prioritizing the fight of HIV/AIDS in this country. Then I want to thank the likes of the late Philip Bongole Lutaya. This was a musician at the epitome of music in Uganda who came out to the entire world and told them, here I am. I'm positive, I have HIV/AIDS. The likes of the late DJ Berry. I want to thank him that these are people who are handling the music industry at that time, but came out and said, here I am. They became ambassadors. At that time, it was very hard for you to have HIV/AIDS because we didn't have the medication, we didn't have the ARVs and all that. But they went out and created more awareness. And it was clear, we get AIDS through this channel. Please abstain, please avoid. I want to thank the living ambassadors, the likes of retired Major Baramira Ranga, people who know this man. He's been on any platform of telling them, here I am. I'm HIV positive, I'm on ARVs, have now lived for the last 30 years with HIV/AIDS. I have a family, I'm doing good. He's given hope. The likes of Reverend Gideon Biamugisha, they have been all over. He's a reverend, you know, in church, but he came out and said, I am positive. I've lived a successful life, giving hope to those people. So I want to begin by thanking them. When we talk about Uganda's case, our first case of HIV/AIDS was discovered at Kasensero landing site, and that is now Rakai district. And remember, this was a landing site that's just a few kilometers from the Uganda-Tanzanian border. And you know, with landing sites, you have fishermen and their lifestyle. So by then, people thought it was witchcraft. Many Ugandans, as it was killing them, they would say he went to Tanzania, then maybe stole something. So this is a witchcraft. And people were dying, people were dying, people were dying. And remember, it had extended to many parts of this country. Even we had people who were going to witchcraft. But when the president made these utterances, we began seeing strides. There came in Tasso, an organization was put there. We began seeing a number of campaigns. Then around the early 90s, that is when also it was known that now it is not only through sexual intercourse, or when you have a car, you're involved in an accident, they discover that even the mother can pass on HIV/AIDS to a baby. Science came out because much as people were kind of abstaining, but we had babies that were being born with HIV/AIDS. So then we discovered mechanisms of saving, and there being awareness, they want to crash on all those midwives, all those people that help in delivery, because the magic is at the point of delivery. If the mother, if the parents declare their status, and the medics are aware that the child or the fetus, because it doesn't have HIV/AIDS. But during this birth, if all is not taken, that is when the child can contract. So these were some of the strides. Now we reached levels where government of Uganda, of course with huge funds coming from the donor community, because of the other call I told you earlier of His Excellency, ARVs were availed, treatment was given, and as we speak today in Uganda, we have about 1.5 million Ugandans that are HIV positive. And we have 1.3 million Ugandans that know their status and on treatment. So these are the strides we've made in the area of HIV/AIDS. Of course, maybe one would also wonder, what are the statistics like? We still have challenges, because you understand that every week, I was reading a shocking report this morning, Priscilla, by UNAIDS. It says every week in Uganda, 570 girls contract HIV/AIDS. The year 2020, we had 3,800 Ugandans contract HIV/AIDS. We had 2,000 200 die of HIV/AIDS. We had 5,200 newborn born with HIV/AIDS. So we have made strides, because now that's why even you see that some youth are like, AIDS is not like cancer. You get HIV/AIDS, know your status, you get drugs. And this is why we are ranked among the top 10 countries in the world that have done so much to reverse HIV/AIDS.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Robert Kirabo. Still in that regard, one of the earlier challenges that was brought about because of HIV/AIDS, then people would barely know their statuses, but they would be living positively, and then they will give birth to children. And then in a short while, because of lack of treatment or absence of treatment, they would have to pass away. And one of the grappling challenges that actually literally would suffocate the economy of this country later on was the orphans that were being left behind, which were many, and among whom were also, you know, living positive lives. And so we did have one of the policies on government level that was given a directive, you know, and that is when we had the introduction of so many non-government organizations that are coming through to actually help with the insurgents in the scourge of HIV/AIDS on our community, then the orphans. And so we had so many orphanages coming up here, there, and they were focusing on the orphans that were related to HIV and AIDS. Today, the story has changed simply because of the progress that we have made, that in such a case as 2021, that orphan can actually still live in the community, and then they can be taken care of because of presence of, you know, treatments, the ARVs that you've talked about, and also awareness, as well as going through all these different phases that they may be experiencing, having or living positive lives. But now the other challenge that instead is cropping up is inequality as far as HIV and AIDS is concerned. And this stretches from the economical into the political, also into the social atmosphere of Uganda. Felix Nkunda, how does inequality actually aid in the stigmatization of HIV/AIDS? How does it aid in having people not accessing the medication, having people not aware of their statuses, more so accepting to live with their positive lives?
Well, inequality definitely being one of the major statements of the primary connotations in today's celebration theme, is a depiction of how unbalanced or how the ground is not necessarily leveraged in terms of the efforts that are being sought internationally. It gets worse when it comes to third world countries, and for you to better understand inequality in a sense of such a fight, you must be able to put it on a spectral balance with other health challenges in such countries. Majorly, I want to speak into the spirit of the crafters of such a theme. The last 2 years we have been stuck with a pandemic. Clearly that in its own self has caused a hike in inequality, and this manifests itself in how accessible medical health care is for the people living with HIV, and also how available is such medical health care for such people. Why we look at it in this sense, or why is it important for us to take the bitter discussion of inequality, is that we are talking about a virus that majorly or by far is governed by lifestyle. At least as a matter of fact, the people who have HIV/AIDS are probably 80 or over 80% contracted through lifestyle, and that one would say through intercourse, if you may want to say sexual intercourse for that matter, or any other ways but are related to lifestyle. Most given in African countries, and in particular if you may want us to discuss Uganda, you will relate such behavior or mannerism or lifestyle to poverty as one of the major aspects that cause HIV. You relate it to drugs, abuse of drugs. You know. 3, you relate it to issues of inadequate information. You'll be surprised that up till today there are places in this country where AIDS, still people think it's witchcraft. even if we have been at it for over 20, 30 years, but people would want to still choose to look at it as a witchcraft. Fourth, you look at what are the various government policies for them to tackle the cross-wide aspect. But 5, also, you look at what level is the health system. Because if the health system is up there, you find that some of these challenges are also dealt in within. But the manifestation of inequality comes to life when the communities are not well versed with information. When you go to health centers, for example, if any of you has been privileged to be to any hospital, and you find that do we have the necessary information, even for, by the way, health practitioners? Because in Uganda, we have different practices in terms of healthcare. We have people who major in health, general medical, health, surgeons and what. But do we have, for example, particular people, at least for the last 30 years or more, who have chosen to concentrate on studies in regard to HIV? That's one of the ways inequalities manifest. That it is either there has been no motivation towards that line in terms of research, in terms of medical health care, in terms of attention to the patients. But secondly, has the government policy in relation to AIDS grown or stagnated or gone down? Again, that is a manifestation of inequalities. For example, when you look at the most recent budgets, do we see an increase in that proportion? When the pandemic came, did we see anything anew being discussed by the healthcare individuals in terms of how they are going to stay relevant to the people who have HIV? We saw some volunteers come out to get a gentleman, I think, who got a bicycle, was taking ARVs. Another gentleman got a border. So these were individual efforts, and we saw so many NGOs come out to make cry about this, that look here, we have patients who are on drugs, and between you and me, you know that the kind of drugs these people take are probably continuous.
They should be uninterrupted.
Exactly. So all these things manifest, but also how much investment have we put in to send the message out there? Because this disease is by far as a domain of lifestyle. Are we speaking to the right people? I remember when I was in primary, my later days in Shimoni and early days in secondary, there was so much information out there about AIDS. If you remember, there used to be things like Straight Talk. There was another one, I think.
We had the ABC slogan.
You can imagine. I have heard of campaigns of Go Red, a partner sexual network. I don't know the last time I saw a message about HIV on TV or even in the news. You could tell me, some of you probably were watching different TVs.
Every single morning, so you and I can
billboards and what?
Yes.
Because, and the reason why you see the increase most recent, if you do research, it's been attributed to the laxity. Most recent, I think government or institutions have refocused their energies in different dimensions, and now we have gotten back to the growth of numbers. But remember, once numbers grow because of the unawareness, for example, now you look at the high prevalence is mostly in youth. Now, between you and me, you know the relevance of safeguarding such a kind of population for a country. So as we discuss issues of AIDS and World AIDS Day, I think we must endeavor to deal with the inequalities by putting the relevant information there, but also tasking the relevant bodies to be present continuously, make themselves available for that matter and accessible.
Okay, all right. Felix has touched base with one of the issues there that is causing the inequality, and that is the healthcare system. Let's have a look at our healthcare system in the presence of two things. One, HIV and AIDS, but also we do have the COVID-19 pandemic that we cannot ignore, and both are stretching the sector in one way or another.
First, to supplement slightly what Felix talked about, this being a lifestyle issue, I think there is a mistake that we made in the fight against HIV/AIDS. Previously, all messages were pointing to, we have a killer, avoid this killer. You know, all the messages we would see were of people thinning, you know, people losing life. We had that element of fear, and the population was scared. It's like when in COVID-19, to bring the connection, when we saw a number of deaths, remember, people rushed for vaccination. People wore masks. Remember the second wave? Now that people are beginning wondering, do we still have this? You saw people relaxing, putting on masks. So when we change this HIV message now to acquire AIDS, live normally, that when people lost that fear in their minds, that is why you see that now a young girl will tell you, getting pregnant, I'd rather contract HIV AIDS. You see, that's why you hear people telling you this and that, because there's a way we changed our message and came like, AIDS is now a fever. I know you've heard these statements there. No, but so that in one way, I want to believe also in one way or the other, stagnated the effort. But to go back to the question I asked, that is between HIV, AIDS, and of course COVID, one we would say, first and foremost, when COVID landed on the globe, we registered our first case, I think diverted attention of the health system in our country so much to focus on the pandemic. And reasons are very clear. Maybe one would think, we know how HIV/AIDS is contracted and it can easily be avoidable compared to what COVID was. But because this was a global thing, there was so much fear, you find that greatly it impacted on our health system, because all the finances were diverted. Majority of the budgets were now going to HIV/AIDS, were going to COVID-19. Funds that were going to HIV/AIDS and tuberculosis were reduced. The donor community, the world was out there saying, how best do we get vaccines? How best do we develop this? The World Health Organization for the last 2 years, you might find that it has devoted so much of sensitization, research into COVID. The Uganda Virus Institute, that was originally meant to do more research on HIV/AIDS, you would say it was expanding more into COVID-19. So greatly COVID-19 affected so much the health system in terms of HIV/AIDS. Remember when we had lockdown, people are supposed to take these ARVs uninterrupted because they have to keep the CD4 count very low so that the body immune system can fight. The moment you're off drugs, this is what happens. Of course, the CD4 will rise and chances are your immune system is destroyed. So you're easily attacked by other diseases and you can die. So once we interrupted this treatment, it was obvious that we had so many people who were on treatment and their lives had fairly improved that could have gone back to that deteriorating state. But very importantly, when you talk about funding of HIV/AIDS, because you know all these things require funding, it is very unfortunate that most of the services regarding HIV/AIDS in Uganda depend on donors. And this morning I was reading something briefly, Priscilla, regarding the funding of HIV/AIDS in this country. If we are to end HIV/AIDS, like you earlier said, by 2030, which is our goal, and this is what I found very interesting, and I think here our government must really do something to ensure we don't get there. The Uganda AIDS Commission director, he was very clear. He said that we need these amounts of money as a country to ensure that we end HIV/AIDS by 2040 and 2030. And it was Uganda AIDS Commission says the country requires an investment of $8 billion US, which is approximately 28.5 trillion shillings, to avert 140,000 new infections by 2030. Recently, government provides partly 1 billion shillings out of the required 2 trillion shillings. That is what we can afford as a country.
All right. That then also brings in a very contentious question. COVID-19 versus other pandemics, such as today we are focusing on HIV/AIDS. We have seen how the globe has quickly and continuously is responding to COVID-19 and how vaccines in a span or a blink of an eye had actually been processed, challenged, and then put on the market to be able to deal with the pandemic. We have HIV/AIDS that has been here for 40 years, and we have not had as much and such dedication to research, to science, to be able to create a solution. One would wonder, why do we have this kind of inequality too?
But it's as simple as, you see, some of these diseases are unheard of in Europe. If you've been to Europe and you talk about HIV, just like when you're in Europe and talk about malaria, people in Europe have far long been past where we are. Honestly and truly, someone who has HIV, let's say in the US, it's like news. It makes global news. It can be a breaking story. because it's you see, I think there's some diseases or pandemics that are cut out for particular places in the world. I should say it that way. When you go to some of these countries and you say, I'm HIV positive, it's not, and that's why when the late Fide Lutaya came out, the world picked interest because it was a new thing for them. And they supported thus far with the albums, dealing with the stigma, bringing him out and all that. But because you did mention the aspect of inequality, and Robert said earlier about the funding, I would want to make a rejoinder to the two submissions. And I want to say this. In Uganda is a world third country, and that's a matter of fact. The challenges that face us are more solid away from just the pandemics, and it is quite cognizant even in times of the pandemic. One may want to compare the corona with AIDS, but which is more lethal? Look at how many people corona has killed in the span of 2 years vis-a-vis the number of, not that we don't care about that. When you talk about such budgets, humongous budgets, it makes us to resonate back to the aspect of the issue of lifestyle. As we celebrate days like this, we must be bold enough to confront the problem of AIDS, away from massaging it, away from quarter battering it and speaking nice lip service. We must be bitter to talk about these things. Why are the youth in this country today contracting AIDS mostly? We should discuss bitterly these issues. Shouldn't we be calling on two families to discuss these issues? If you have people of the age of 17 to 25 contracting HIV at a high number, why don't we discuss? Let us find the problem question. Why? Lifestyles. Today you're dealing with issues of exposure, internet, globalization. Today you have whatever you call social media things like TikTok, what do people see? Look at how women dress today. You'll be challenged to know that rape cases have gone high, defilement cases have gone high, and domestic look at the legal regime. Exactly. Yes. So you look at, we must be bitter to discuss what is our cultural policy in terms of helping us reduce, and of course religion. So let's not just talk about what was, what went, what. Let's talk about the things we can do to get in a better place to avoid this.
Because actually, Felix...
Let's pause it right there. We'll continue with this conversation. But as Felix has rightly said, let's tackle the underlying issue. And the underlying question is why are we having these cases in the first place in such a time and era as this, when there's availability of so many resources and inequality and AIDS and end pandemics by the year 2030. A continuing conversation on HIV as we celebrate World AIDS Day. For now, we get to look at the papers.
This is Good Morning Uganda. It is intellectually engaging.
So for me, as a member of parliament, if we decide and pass a policy and say we're going to buy you cars and give it all of you, we no longer want to give you money, I'm okay with it.
To say that you're going to fight corruption is very good. It makes people feel good. Like when you say people are going to go to heaven, people feel good even if they die and they don't get anywhere.
Deeply incisive.
So the conversation really should go beyond this particular view to say how should we adjust our budget in light of the lockdowns.
Authentically symbolic and insightful.
It is easier to be an analyst, but statecraft is another skill. We should also respect those who are running a state, even when we are giving them feedback.
Behind the Headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odongto.
I will repeat it, 0709 602 592. That is the number that you should send us a message through so that we can interact with you and read your messages.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different, even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Keeping you informed with what is trending locally and internationally. It's now time we look at some of the headlines in the dailies this morning as we join the rest of the world to celebrate World AIDS Day. I hold the New Vision, and a headline there: UPDF hits 4 ADF camps in Democratic Republic of Congo. And the New Vision gives you kind of a map there of how the operation was and maybe some of the areas that were hit. There is a picture there for you. And still in the education, UNEB exams for October. That is UNEB for October. Walim leaders want teachers arrested. That is the Walim Circle has dispersed loans amounting to 27.7 billion to various teacher groups in the country in the last 5 years. However, just 3.4 billion has been recovered, a report has revealed, according to the Walimu Circle. World AIDS Day, the New Vision has a special coverage inside there for you, and students' loan scheme, why the application deadline was extended to January. Still, the New Vision gives you more regarding education there for you, and you can find out more. There is Senior 1 Physics Assessment Learning, Materials, and Senior 3 Biology, Chemistry, plus Senior 2 English as well.
Daily Monitor: Uganda strikes 4 ADF bases, how offensive was planned, and of course consensus built, commanders of the operation, and codenamed Shuja. And of course, police turned blind eye at NRM flag bearer, flout social media social distancing rules, and 61 suspects charged over Zombo attack, and application deadline for study loan extended. And of course, also what to expect when you enter in an incomplete home, and HIV/AIDS won't be a public threat by 2030. Uganda, again, stories about the ADF inside the papers and how UPDF justified to attack ADF in Congo.
In the New Vision, still we look at facts about HIV/AIDS, how to detect HIV/AIDS in babies, but also we move to the COVID-19 tracker. New confirmed cases, 27, positivity rate 0.75%, new death, none. Death toll so far, 3,252. Once again, get your jab so that we avoid death as a result of COVID-19, but also perfect the standard operating procedures so that you do not contract or spread COVID-19. Still, today in history, it was on the 1st of December, the year 1997, when Karim Hilji won the bid for Sheraton Hotel. But also on the same date, the year 1999, Nelson Mandela was appointed Burundi Peace Talks facilitator.
Now in sports, Wakiso UPDF lead goals glant in the league there and focus on Akope Rugumayo. Now English Premier League, Derby Day, high-flying Liverpool visits Marseille-side rival, that is Everton, with the later manager Rafa Benitez walking with nose around his neck. Now, of course, Messi, Copa America was key in winning Ballon d'Or, and NASA glad to have gained exposure.
In the world of sports, in the New Vision this morning, I Am Thirsty. That is a Captura 8th of the 8-part series regarding the area where we've seen many of our champions and gold medalists come from, but also Chiprimo honored lose his mother. That is, Jacob Chiprimo was recognized by USPA a day before his mother passed on in Kapchora Hospital. But don't forget, these and more, Ruben will be here to give you all the updates in the world of sports.
In the Daily Nation, this is my legacy. Do not return country to the dark days. Uhuru tells aspirants to be careful as they head into the election that is in 2021. Of course, he does break down and says the things they have been able to do over the time, how they have been able to mend the pieces and bring the country forth even after the 2007 challenges that the country faced there. Ruto-Raila allies clash over IEBC, exit from poll team. More of that, get your copies of the dailies and you'll be able to have an insight of all these headlines. But far from that, we will be going to Priscilla and we'll be looking at the stories or what's basically happening on the roads and what should be expected as you do find your way to the heart of this beautiful city. Well, of course, also, much of the stories, again, as I said earlier, today the papers are covered much by AIDS. And of course, they give you success stories, how people have been able to get over various challenges of HIV/AIDS. And of course, those living with it, how they are carrying on with their lives. But now let's take a break. But when we come back, Priscilla will be giving us the traffic updates.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
It is intellectually engaging.
So for me, as a member of parliament, if we decide and pass a policy and say we're going to buy you cars and give it all of you, we no longer want to give you money, I'm okay with it.
To say that you're going to fight corruption is very good. It makes people feel good. Like when you say people are going to go to heaven, people feel good even if they die and they don't get anywhere.
Deeply incisive.
So the conversation really should go beyond this particular view to say how should we adjust our budget in light of the lockdowns.
Authentically symbolic and insightful.
It is easier to be an analyst, but statecraft is another skill. We should also respect those who are running a state, even when we are giving them feedback.
Behind the headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odongto.
I will repeat it, 07.
Transact and win money after money with Airtel Money. 1.5 billion shillings in cash prizes up for grabs. The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
This is Good Morning Uganda. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, as we talk about weather, nature and ecosystem, there are things that are starting to disappear, species that are rare, and most of the food items as well that are becoming rare. For example, when was the last time you saw a huge farm of mushrooms? Really, growing up, there were a lot of mushrooms, you know, within gardens, everywhere across home, around, you know, your workplace. But these days it seems to be like those are disappearing. But however, these have also been linked to the climate crisis that we are talking about currently, and recently it is becoming a global crisis. Well, how do mushrooms relate to what is happening now? It is believed that mushrooms and you know, in general, the fungi system, the fungi network, and in particular we are talking about the mycorrhizal fungi network. Now those are, you know, most of the species and the grouping when it comes to fungi. Now they have been linked to be the carbon sinks. So which means that they also take in much more carbon dioxide, which is going to be helpful in limiting global warming. Now, when you talk about that, we mean that, you know, since these create nutrients towards our soils, there is an underground storage for carbon. Now, what that means is that if we focus more on the fact that there could be more carbon dioxide trapped in the ground, then we're talking about less heat trapped above the ground. I hope you get what I'm saying. But basically, now what scientists have discovered is that most of the nutrients that are actually involved with fungi and related to that are the mushrooms, what we locally call obutiko. I think for at least Uganda and most languages, I don't know how, you know, that can be related, but at least most people have seen mushrooms. So what happens is that these do create nutrients towards what is living above the ground, including the plants. It's actually believed that 500 million years ago, these helped get more plants on the ground, especially those that were living in the water, the marine, you know, the algae, and most of the marine species moving to land. That was about 500 million years ago. So meaning that most of these nutrients that are actually coming through the fungi also do, you know, harbor the carbon within the ground. So what is worrying the scientists is that we are not putting much efforts towards these things that are under the ground. So imagine a scenario where we had at least 50% of the carbon trapped under the ground. So that means that, you know, because then they cannot trap as much heat towards the atmosphere, and then they can't also create that warming system that, you know, traps heat within the atmosphere. But also what is more interesting about this fungi system associated with mushrooms is that most of the nutrients that have been feeding this fungi network or the mushrooms have been taken away. Why? We have use of fertilizers, the pesticides. So whenever we do apply a lot of things to the soils, that means we are degrading what are the constituents of this fungi network. And that is what has created that huge talks about why we should protect and have more mushroom on the market. And this report was coming in from The Guardian. Also what they are analyzing is that the fact that we could actually have more plantations, or, you know, while we have gardens at home, why can't we make sure that at least we have, you know, a little bit of those mushrooms and make sure that we continue that chain? Because in turn, after all, it is saving our planet, and it is trapping more carbon into the ground. So that is interesting, and it seems like they are becoming a rare species, and also that is linked to climate change. Now with climate change, a lot of species are disappearing. Recently we were talking about how the Nsenene have also become few, and before that we were talking about the disappearing of butterflies. It's a long time, like, for you to come across a butterfly in the morning, or even in drier seasons, because that's when they actually come out more, but then it has become more rare and rare, meaning that we're losing a lot of stuff with climate change. So when we talk about the emergency, it speaks to the severity of where we are right now. Well, this morning, let's go ahead and take a look at how the weather is trending like across the country. And from what we're seeing from the satellites, it looks like most areas actually did start off with quite a clear day. We're having mostly cloudy conditions across the country. Just a few areas within the islands of Lake Victoria that are starting to develop a little bit of rains, but most of those will be disappearing as the day progresses. Now, we do have clear skies, mostly the northern part of Uganda, across Gulu, Padel, looking at a sunny morning, and also across the Karamoja region where you see the gray colors. Those are quite clear skies, meaning that we do have a lot of sunlight over there. Also for northwestern Uganda, where we have Arua, they are waking up to very sunny skies, and I think also temperatures are equally high, looking at how direct the sunlight is actually hitting there. But most areas to the southern sector having cloudy conditions, quite cold, but at least we don't have any rains for now. What we do have is a system where I see the quite blue colors over the island of Lake Victoria towards the eastern Lake Victoria, starting to develop rains, and those could actually be bringing rains across mostly areas of Jinja, that is eastern part of this area, also towards the central Lake Victoria basin, Kampala inclusive. So we could be seeing rains as the day progresses, also for the western part of Lake Victoria where we have Masaka. But for now, there is at least intervals of sunny conditions across the area. But do not get too comfortable. We do have rains on the way. We'll go ahead and take a look into the forecast that we have for you this morning for different areas across the country. Now we start off with the eastern part of Uganda, where we have Soroti, Katakwi, Amuria, and Kumi. We are forecasting intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, starting off with a 28, quite a warm morning over there, but we are forecasting rains later in the afternoon for the eastern part of the country. Now looking at the central northern Uganda, where we have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel, and Adjumani, we're also forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine. Right now it's much more sun, but we will be having intervals of cloudy conditions, starting off with a warm 28 and likely to go into the at least lower 30s by end of the day. Well, we look at parts of eastern central, where we have Ruwero, Wobulenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke. We're forecasting intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, starting off at 27. That is also quite warm weather over there, but also likely to have a little bit of rains later in the afternoon, but that will be over a few areas. Now we look at the central Lake Victoria Basin, where we have Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso, Mukono. We do have a forecast for light rains. Those will be coming in later as the day progresses, starting off at a cool 24, and most of those rains might continue into the afternoon, but that will be also over a few areas, nothing much to ruin the day. Now we look at the western part of Lake Victoria, where we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Sembabule, and Rakai. We are talking about isolated rains as well. Those will be mostly over several places, starting off with a cool 25 as well. And also that system is likely to continue into the afternoon, but will clear off later on as we head towards the night. Now we look at southwestern Uganda, where we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi, and Rubirizi, starting off with quite a pleasant mix of clouds and sunshine, with temperatures going up to 26. But we could also looking at more continuation of similar conditions into the afternoon. So most likely it will be a clear day over there. Well, we'll look more into the Elgon region, where we have Mbale, Bududa, Buko, and Sironko. We are looking at a mix of clouds and sunshine as well, starting off at 26, quite cool weather, and that is reflected to the mountainous area across that area, looking at Elgon, but we do expect some rains later in the afternoon as the day progresses. Now look at the eastern part of Lake Victoria, where we have Jinja, Iganga, Busia, Tororo. Already we have those rain clouds closing in, and those will be dumping a few showers towards the area. That will start off with 26 degrees, but we do expect that system to clear as well as we head into the afternoon, and then we could be looking at intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions over there. Well, it is actually pretty sunny morning across the Karamoja region. I'm looking at that area, but it seems like even the clouds are moving away, so that might also lead into the afternoon. So if you are headed towards Karamoja, towards northern Uganda, also the northwestern, it seems like that area is going to be a clear day for you. So you might want to pack a little bit of light clothes, because it is going to be really hot over there. And it's also, you know, if you're going for, a road trip, you might need to pack enough water, especially for such warm conditions. Well, that is it in terms of weather this morning. My name is Molin Kenyana. I will leave you to Good Morning Uganda agenda. Robert will be coming in to take you through that. So later we do have sports, but we continue with our conversations on Twitter as we celebrate World AIDS Day. Do share with us your views and your comments so that we can also know how you are celebrating World AIDS Day. Have a good morning. Well, and you can also continue with the conversations on our poll question, which is how can we support people living with AIDS and also prevent new infections of HIV? Now you can reach us at hashtag UBCGMU and also our Twitter handle at UBCTV Uganda. Also, you can send us a WhatsApp that is on 0709 60 25 92, and we will be sure to get your views and also pass across your message for World AIDS Day. Have a good morning and enjoy the day.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
The program lineup on UBC. Brought to you by Roofings, Strength of a Nation. Brought to you by introducing the all-new Roofings TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend services. Roofings, Strength of a Nation.
We are here to launch this facility. We've launched it. I am appealing to you, our staff, don't make this a white elephant. We want it operational, running and functional.
The purpose of the center is to ease the pressure on the machinery and equipment that are used mainly on farm, and then for production, value addition and processing.
So I am happy that by September, the facility, which is a mechanical center, training center, holding yard, will be operational.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
authentically symbolic and insightful.
We should work so hard to evacuate this power.
Behind the headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odong.
How to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Roofing's TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend services. Roofing's strength of a nation.
Introducing Learn From Home Data Bundles. Customized bundles for you and your family to study or work seamlessly from the comfort of your home. Use any of these affordable data bundles to connect to your MiFi routers, laptops, tablets, and smartphones while avoiding unwanted internet exposure and ensuring undivided attention during online classes. Enjoy instant access to Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and selected educational websites. Dial *175# to buy your Learn From Home bundle today. Airtel, the smartphone network. Terms and conditions apply.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
A minute past 8 a.m. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda agenda on World AIDS Day. As we continue the discussion, and a couple of people have actually sent in sentiments, their stories that we want to hear from you equally in regards to your first experience of having gone for an HIV and AIDS test. This gentleman shared. I am yet to share my story. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga, and welcome to our 8 o'clock hour. I am alongside Felix Nkunda and Robert Kirabo. We do return because we left the 7 o'clock hour with unfinished business and question marks than answers, which is where I want to pick it up from. Now we want to look at the stigma of HIV and AIDS that is created, by those that actually bring about the environment, something that we actually earlier acknowledged, that given our experiences, the way, the health workers did administer this news was in such a way to create fear and instill some sort of fear in you as the recipient of the news, whether positive or negative. They would still first create that fear in you, then they give you the news, which shouldn't be the case. It should be handled differently. So the stigma of those that are living positive lives, but also the stigma that is created by those that are around people that are living with HIV and AIDS in Uganda. But we left off our newsreel asking the big question: what is the fundamental problem and the fundamental cause of the high spreads of HIV/AIDS in Uganda? And Felix Nkunda had left off stating that perhaps it's starting with the families, perhaps we're not doing enough to actually ensure that the youth have as much knowledge and understanding of HIV/AIDS. No wonder they are rated the highest population in contracting and transmitting HIV/AIDS. But why?
Well, Priscilla, as we had earlier opened the discussion into the why, answering the why we are in the position where we are most recently, you will be shocked to realize that some of the causes definitely will work backward to our lifestyle, as I said. If you read through the papers today, and for some of you people who visit happening at night places, it is rare, or out of every 100 people, you'll never find someone above the age of 40 or 50. It's that rare. The majority customers of such places are between the ages of 17 and the ages of 25, 26, 27. To the extreme, maybe 30. That is some of the wazeis. At that point, we are wazeis who you may pass around for,
to grow up.
Who may want to eat late, and then you stay in a place and you eat probably up to about. But the biggest number of the people in such places are youngsters. That's why when you talk about the spread of this particular virus, it is affecting more these youngsters. Actually, in one of the discussions we had, we noticed and realized that it was a generational problem. A generational problem means that must be answered by generation challenges, which entail one, family lifestyle. How do you say that you are a 17-year-old or 18 or 20-year-old wasn't born with HIV and you contract HIV? At what point do our children start to engage into real talk about sexuality? Do they engage themselves in these talks, or are they introduced to these talks? If they are introduced to these talks, who is introducing them to these talks? Okay? Who are the keepers of our children in terms of when they are home, when they are away from home? Do we have safe spaces for our children in this country? When we talk about gender-based violence, we are discussing a problem that is a bit small but manifests quite in a broad aspect. When I talk about safe spaces in terms of homes, today we have reports where we see fathers defiling their own children. We have relatives. This issue of uncle has become another problem in this country. The uncles of Uganda are rapists, are defilers, are marrying their own, those issues. We have workers, helpers, the people we work. Let's discuss the spaces. How safe are the spaces? Because it all works towards the same thing of trying to prevent the spread of HIV. If we are able to create assurance that we can protect this generation from exposure, do we have the right laws in place to prevent or to answer the question that we are discussing today of inequality? Do we have the right laws? How punitive are the laws? What is the role of police, role of the judiciary, and probably legislators? Do they have a role? You see, we are trying to consolidate the various players to make sense of our consolidated efforts against the fight against HIV. That's why I said, on top of having good rhetoric, good history, good background about HIV, what do we do henceforth? Are we doing the right thing? Are we tasking Parliament to make the relevant laws? Or are we focusing on bills for workers? Because even if you have good laws in terms of workers, but you're going to spend more money on healthcare trying to service such challenges like HIV, AIDS, among the others, you're doing nothing. Do parents have the right information about HIV? You know, I got to learn when I was at university that there's something called PEP. I think it's pre-exposure, something like that. People don't know these things. For example, today I was with one of my friends and we were somewhere out of this country, far somewhere and the white men had a testing kit, and I've seen it in Uganda also, that you just rub in the mouth. I think
you
it takes,
collect the saliva sample.
You just have to rub on your gum and then put it
in a liquid and it gives
Do we know these things that are on market? That's why I said the information is lacking. Because earlier on people would say, I don't have the patience to go to a hospital, wait for what? Then sometimes it's in the heat of a moment that you want to interact with someone sexually or what. But how available are some of these things on the market? I think for me today, as we celebrate World AIDS Day, we must bitterly confront the issue of information. An informed mind makes an informed decision. But if people don't have the right information, you will be shocked and surprised to find that they'll make ignorant decisions. And that's where we are. People, like when you go to these hospitals where they have HIV medical centers, 70% of the stories will be, I didn't know omwami yandetera obulwadde, ze mukyala wange yandetera obulwadde. I have had chance one time I was at Entebbe, I think it was grade A, where they had and I was talking to the people, telling awareness.
For HIV.
Yes, they have, and was actually it was they used to have a tent, a green tent where they used to collect ARVs. So I was invited. Then I was just a graduate, and I was talking to them about their rights. I was talking about domestic violence and the relation to HIV and what. So almost all the cases, in fact, when Robert talked about the landing sites, these are the places that have the hugest numbers. Almost 60% of the stories work towards.
All right, so then that means that we have social inequality in regards to fighting
It's a matter of fact.
There's information inequality in fighting against
gap,
AIDS,
yes.
and of course service provision and healthcare access for HIV/AIDS is also having an imbalance there. You have definitely given us the background of the why question and how it all starts, one, from the grassroots of this country, which is the family units, children, and the biggest question has been, why don't we have sex education in our school system? Because it would have aided in so much, you know, addressing these issues that we are talking about today. Straight talk, I don't know about you, but straight talk actually did help me a lot as a teenager, because it kept me informed and it would address issues that I was directly going through as a teenager. So if every time I read a straight talk, it answered a question, I would definitely be informed, as Felix has mentioned it, and I would make an informed decision. 2 weeks ago, we had the High Court just here in Kampala directing Education Ministry to quickly develop and implement a comprehensive sexuality education policy for school learners, and that was the directive that was given by a High Court. What is your say in regards to the importance of sex education in addressing these issues earlier than later?
When Felix was giving his deliberation, one thing he talked about is the age group. And this is a fact. Like I earlier told you, I was reading a report by UNAIDS that says in Uganda, every week, 570 young girls contract HIV/AIDS. These are alarming statistics. The biggest challenge when Felix talks about information, and I love the word comprehensive, is, you know, information can both be negative or positive. Sexuality education had challenges in our schools because I think some parents, we saw some religious leaders thinking maybe it was giving more than what should have been known. And these are the challenges that you are facing regarding HIV/AIDS. You know, issues regarding sex, sexual education, sexual messages, I think is something that we either shy or would not address properly in this country. That is why even in the various cultures, you'd find that you have a father, you have a mother, then when it comes to issues of sex education, the girl has to go to the auntie. In most of the cultures, at least I know, that the mother will not feel very comfortable. Imagine telling her own daughter,
talking to her daughter about the reproductive parts of her body, and what she's yet to experience as she grows older.
Yeah, so she had to go to an auntie. Felix, I see how he's wondering. But this is how society was shaped. You know, that a man would find it hard to talk to his son that you're growing, you're developing, then gende wako jawo. You understand? So, yet, where the challenge comes is, if a person doesn't get the right information from the right source, they'll always find this information somewhere. If you don't speak to your young girl that now you've grown, your body structure has changed, you're becoming attractive to men. When you do this and that, the chances you become pregnant, the chances you contract HIV/AIDS, and you don't. This girl will still get that information. Teenagers will still get that information on social media, on a person who has intentions to exploit her. They will give this information to her, and of course that will be tailor-made to suit the interest of the other man. Maybe I know of a young girl who told me that her friends are laughing at her because she's a virgin. Asking her, are you sure at your age you're going into campus? You mean you've never? You've never. Shame upon you. It was something like a shame. I told her, no, actually, you stand out as a heroine among them because you've been able to preserve this. You're not an outcast. So when court recommends this information, comprehensively tailor-made for specific age groups so that they get the right information, not from peers who feel, yes, they have lost it, now they want more to join, who feel that what they see on TV, what they hear sometimes in funny dramas on radio stations, some radio stations, is what is vital. So if we have proper information tailor-made to that. But also Felix talked about the issue of law. You know, when you talk about HIV/AIDS being a lifestyle disease, very true. But over a time I've observed in this generation, you go to these happening places, and you wonder, these kids, how do they access such places? You know? You find these kids drinking. Yes, families could have maybe, but what about the community? You see a young girl moving almost half naked, in communities, and nobody is
I think
bothered.
the community has died out. What is known as community is collective responsibility over anything that is happening, which we have lost in most recent times.
And you know, one of these things, for you, you think you're in safe zone. This is what happens. You don't mind about a neighbor's daughter, maybe who seems to be out of the way, but this is going to be your daughter's friend at the end of the day. Why some of these things were avoidable? Previously, children belong to the community. We were all concerned. You know, you find a way of how the community would come in to help these youngsters.
The reason why it's not possible nowadays, all the children are born on if. You see, and
actually, and all the person would say,
me, I'll tell you, and without even fear, this generation of 93, 94, 95, you're dealing with, I'm telling you,
radical youth.
These children.
Okay, all right. Speaking of these children and youth in the fight against HIV/AIDS, of course, ending inequality and ending AIDS by the year 2030, we did have the UN AIDS coming out with a three-arm approach to actually dealing with the youth and participation of them in HIV/AIDS fight. One is working for youth as beneficiaries, the other was engaging with youth as partners, and the third one is supporting youth as leaders. Felix Nkunda, participation of youth, how can we make it more inclusive in regards to being leaders, partners, and beneficiaries?
You see, again, it brings you back to the conceptual appreciation of mindset. How prepared are the people we are talking about to take part of the solution to this problem? Are they even interested? You know, I will beg your pardon and try to break down why I said this whole thing of this particular age group of people. Why I have issues with them. I've been privileged to be in the education sector, and now for some good time, coming close to at least 5 years, and I've been dealing with this kind of people. You know, they are so irresponsible with their lives. Irresponsible in capital and bold. You can even add italics, purposes of emphasis. And this is a true depiction of the kind of parents they have. When you're, for example, someone's full lecture, someone leaves their home to come to study in a certain way, to dress in a particular way. And some of us preempt and ask, hey, so Robert, where do you stay? I stay in Najana. Oh, do you stay with mom and dad? Yes, yes. Oh, and you're like, wow.
How did you live?
How did you even get here? Where did you pass dressed like this? Today we have boys of age of 21 with dreadlocks. Dreadlocks? In whose house? You see, the small things we are missing eventually cause the bigger problems. We are exposing very small brains to very big challenges. A 20-year-old cannot be dating a 40-year-old. The 40-year-old has slept with over 400 women in the setup of third world countries. By the time someone is 40 years and they have been in this city and they are sharp and smart, they have slept with over 200 women. But now we are having this cross-gender. There's even a word called, say, sugar daddy, sugar honey daddy.
Now they are going for ancestors.
Now, now you see,
they have left the sugar daddies.
Not that it's wrong for them to relate, but on what basis? The risk we are exposing. They look at the communities like, and I'm trying to. This is like the small things we never notice, but they bring.
We know that they are.
And we
don't speak against
some of them,
and that's why
actually
Uganda,
many of them would think they are stylish.
No.
They are modern.
You know,
they are rights.
In Uganda, Robert,
one
we have
can
a
tell
saying.
You, Felix, be a modern day parent. That's
a very bogus approach to life. In fact, I was listening to was it Robert or Priscilla was saying that you take you to auntie to tell you what. What can't I say? Don't I have a mouth? A breast is a breast.
Yeah. And it's going
pubic
to
hair is pubic hair. What is there to gerrymander about? You see, for us, we grew up in, I don't think, military way. This is the way. You one step off the way, they will put you. I remember one time I tried a sexual relationship. I think I was in S4. My mother almost killed me at post office here in the middle of it. I was saved by car, people, passengers, people who were. I was saved. The woman wanted to kill me in the heart of Kampala. She removed the Kakondo. And for me, I knew that was a no-go area. What am I saying? There is no one, Priscilla, and let's not even dilly or dally about responsibility of parents in the fight against HIV. Stop thinking you are loving your children as you see them fall off life. It has everything to do with how they dress, with their etiquette, with their mannerism, with their discipline. There are many things that have happened, and as I wanted to bring a saying in Uganda, they say that and no one said anything. Like there's that old story in Uganda where you know how a man can come home and no one talks. So a snake came in one time and they were eating dinner and it bit the man and the guy died. And when they asked, they're like, now, this is the thing. You know what's killing our generation, but all of you are pretending like you don't see these things. How does a child come in your home with dreadlocks at the age of 17?
How does a child spend a night outside a home?
Your father. How do you explain that to me? And when they go, because you're not in charge of their lives, they will be raped, they will be defiled, they will be sexually enticed. Now they are drugs. Some girls will tell you their stories that they were given drugs and they were used. Yeah. I have a personal story of a friend's sister who got kidnapped in Makerere and was used. A young girl, innocent, she went to buy bread at Hot Loaf or something?
Anything, yes.
And she was abducted, taken for 3 days away. You people are leaving your children to the world. And I think for me the discussion about HIV, you must know, you can't exonerate families. They have the biggest role. Keep your children, your people, your dependents in safe zones, period.
Okay, indeed a very big period there, but I'm pretty sure the parent watching Good Morning Uganda agenda, you have gotten the message. You are the rightful responsibility that can help us fight against HIV/AIDS and hopefully end it by the year 2030. We do have some responses here. We do have Gagamel who sent in his message earlier, his first experience of an HIV test, and he says, my sister's dream poked me to make my first HIV test. She told me that she dreamt when I'm HIV positive. So her dream clicked in my mind several times until I went for a test confidently, but I was so nervous. By the time they called me to come out and pick my results, guess what? I was negative, yes, but I rushed to her and I put my results on the table. Bah! Yes, I'm negative.
So stop dreaming.
So not stop dreaming, but to disprove the dream.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, but he says those people really need our commitment. We can support them by giving them encouraging messages like they can live longer with the disease if they take the ARVs effectively, and life will go on. Most of the people die of fear of the disease, and we've experienced it here in COVID-19.
Yes.
Fear has been the greatest cause of death for COVID-19.
And actually for HIV in the early 80s and early 90s, it was more or less a death ticket because you didn't have the ARVs, you didn't have information.
That's true.
Today it ceases to be. We've had examples I've talked about. You live a normal life as long as you stick to your treatment.
Okay. So
know your status. If you're positive, just go on medication.
All right. Other responses from our poll question this morning. We do have Amina Dawa who sends in a message and says, we can support these people by showing them love and care and not discriminate them or marginalize them, hence avoiding the stigma amongst them. Avoid more infections by being faithful to your partners. Abstain from sex, the juvenile, and finally use condoms for protected sexual behavior if you must. Goes back to the ABC campaign that was a
Priscilla,
good campaign back in the day, but it went quiet after
ABC, well, many analysts, people said that method did not work to a certain level, that they later discovered that actually the youth were not abstaining, so they resorted to safe sex They resorted, it was abstinence, the A.
I'm no longer a youth.
It reached a point where it wasn't workable.
I went through youthhood.
It wasn't workable because of the so many exposures, the lifestyle, like Felix has said. So now they are preaching safe sex.
But you still can't kill the abstinence because there's some who are choosing to do because they've received this information in time.
And there's good parenting. Let me tell you, keeping your children in your area space where you have control is the only thing. Don't be deceived. You must be in charge of your kids' movements, what they see, where they see, who they talk to, until they are ready.
So parenting in full is a full-time period. Job. It's not all about providing the
basics. If you hear all the experiences of people who have contracted HIV, there's a parenting gap. Let's be honest. There's a parenting gap. There's a gap that parents missed. There's a gap. For example, and it's the same thing we said.
Parents, guardians, caretakers.
How do you welcome back your child at midnight? Midnight, to be very serious. Okay, you may say some of us are tough and what, or
traditional,
which is okay. I love being traditional. I pride in that, by the way. But how do you welcome Nalwoga Priscilla, your daughter, and Nyonyintono at midnight?
How?
Well,
good question.
Hey, they will take. They will
we have to wait for your daughter to grow up to answer that question. Good morning. I'm Chasho Fred from Sironko District. Nowadays, people fear pregnancy, and it's no longer a threat. However, the government should actually sensitize people about the effects of HIV and AIDS. So people fear pregnancy more.
Yeah, I told you earlier here. A young girl will tell you HIV/AIDS now is just a fever because they have seen. This is the biggest problem in the world is managing success. Priscilla, success is something that is hard to manage. Uganda's successful story in the fight against HIV/AIDS is now one of the challenges it is facing to handle. Because I want to tell you previously, I remember the first person I saw with HIV/AIDS was called Tebandeke. But even if you would move the entire village, you would see. He had lost weight, the lips were red, the eyes. It was a scare. All of us, they would just tell you, Sirimu Bwato Bwaruma. You don't even want a lady to get closer to you. Today, we are seeing people, some will just confess I'm positive. And you're like, what? And you see, that is success. That is success, that people now no longer shrink, people no longer go through that pain, people can live longer. But in one way, it has had an impact. Coupled with also stigma. I want to tell you, you'll find very few people with HIV/AIDS that can freely get their drugs, much as they are available. There is stigma. How many people can freely take their ARVs? You see them taking it stealthily.
No, but let me
tell you,
how many
people can go and
we cannot say that HIV is normal, with due respect.
Definitely.
We can't sit here and try to normalize HIV/AIDS. That it's supposed to be, it's not supposed to. That's why even people who have it, it is only the people who have a big heart who come out to use their challenge as like a study for public. And for us, even as we do this show, it's important to applaud them. Robert spoke of some of them, the likes of MC Katz, the likes of Alosia Smatovu Joy, and many others who have come out. It's not something to pride about. Even when I remember I was following my friend Katz's story, he broke down again, time and again. He almost got mental challenges. And him coming out to use this, that's why I'm saying that when people even hide taking, in fact, someone taking ARVs, you can't know. There's one time I remember one of my lecturers, now Dr. Kavanda, told us, you people, and he used to talk to us in class, told us, you people, and we were young people at university, please. And you put a worst case scenario, look at these girls as all infected. In fact, he used to say, you're the only alive person. Everyone is sick.
Okay,
all the time would come and tell us, everyone is sick, you're the only. So don't sleep with anyone. Avoid. And he told us, the day they prescribe for you an ARV is the day reality will hit you. So avoid that scenario. In as much as it was a bit scary, but that's the reality. And my mother used to tell us, in Uganda, and in Uganda we have another saying that tokebeza maso.
Another message here. Generally, people living with HIV and AIDS has improved because of introduction of the ARVs that Felix is talking about. But I think government can do more as we are fighting HIV and AIDS by allocating more funding to the HIV and AIDS sector. You do have, other than relying on donors, I think something that you actually did bring light to.
Priscilla, that is also very important. But I want to emphasize the words of Nkunda that he just said. There is no amount of money, and I want to repeat this, either from Uganda or the donor community, that is going to sustain huge numbers of infections. What we have to do is to ensure that we stop new infections.
Exactly.
Because no amount of money. Today we are talking about 28-point-something trillion needed. Our government contributes 1 billion.
Money.
A lot of this money is coming from the global fund, from the donor community. I remember there's a time when we had the donor community, I think was it when we had this homosexuality bill and all that, that they had pulled out. They withdrew.
And we suffered giving people medication.
This is not sustainable. You have 1.3 million Ugandans on ARVs. And that is a big percentage of our country.
And unfortunately, this is continuous medication.
This is continuous. You have 3,800 people in 1 year contracting HIV/AIDS.
Let me tell you.
So the solution is only one. Reduce new infections. Parents, it is a full-time job.
Clearly.
Where we've relaxed as a country, where we have this lifestyle that exposes, because also exposure is a problem. You have bars that open 24/7, below 18s are full there, you have trans day, you have trans nights, you have all this so much.
And maybe if I may add on, if you may allow me to add something on what Robert is saying. When you talk about the issue of funding, with due respect to our view, and we must say thank you so much for that.
It's Alfred Mbale.
Alfred, it's key. It's very important. But for some of us who are sports fanatics, you know that it's as good as useless when you score and they are scoring. You score and they are scoring. At the end of the day, you get back to the position where you've been. So when you start scoring the opponent team, the defense must also increase. That we can't be scoring. So even if you invest humongously, but you don't stop the new infections, as Robert is saying, it's as good as useless. But also, Priscilla, kindly, if you may just allow me, something just for us we couldn't live without talking about is what is the role of the religions and tradition leaders. I must categorically thank the Buganda Kingdom. The most recent, for some of us who have participated in the Kabaka's run this particular year, it was geared towards the fight to eliminate. He has been consistent on the message about the fight against HIV. And in my own respect and the respect of my colleagues, we want to thank the Buganda Kingdom, in particular His Royal Highness, the King, Ronald Muwenda Mutebi, in the fight against HIV/AIDS. I think it's key for us to note that some of the basic causes of HIV are traditional practices.
Inheriting
traditional,
widows.
Inheriting widows, traditional like
polygamy,
some of those challenges, traditional practices. Those kind of things are here. Then they had to fast sleep. So when we have traditional leaders at the epitome of this fight, it is symbolic. Religious leaders as well. I think this is key for them to take center stage against such fights.
All right, so we must never keep quiet about such conversations. Information about HIV and AIDS must trickle down to rural areas, and behaviorism such as sex workers should be banned. It's one of the many reasons young girls especially contracting HIV/AIDS in urban areas. Thank you, Alfred.
Which is on a very big increase. I want to tell you, Priscilla, today almost every town in Uganda you go to, every city, every town in this country. I was shocked when I was in northern Uganda. So
let me tell you a funny story. So recently I went to a high-profile hotel, and I was approached by a gentleman that wanted me to join them on their table. And guess what? In his mind, the assumption was I should be, here to provide a sexual service. So I was amused and shocked. I was like, are you serious? serious. It was very.
And you know what amused me?
So because we have also accepted this culture to be normal,
it is normal,
and even those that come into the country do have the expectation.
And it's very funny, you people
want to be shocked.
Given to them.
Drive after 9. This serious days will be about 1, 9, 8.
Because
drive Kabusu, the machine.
Move out of here. Just continue. And what is happening is we've accepted this. One time we had an operation against this, but human rights bodies came out and said no, it is their liberty. What do our laws say in Uganda?
We're going to go have that conversation on the human rights part of, fighting against HIV. We do have Flavia, who is a medical counselor, and she says we can support people with HIV/AIDS only if they open up. Many still keep it to themselves when confirmed that they have the virus, which leads to stigma. But then again, how can they open up if just the environment medically does not allow them to open up? I mean, you deliver the news and it puts the person's heart out instead of keeping it in. She also continues to say we're getting many new cases in children, and this is coming from the house helpers who have brought in the infection. And I advise house heads to take their new helpers for HIV.
They must, and actually, thank you for bringing that up, viewer. I was told, for me, I was told by, and I had honestly and truly, my partner told me, no, we cannot hire some. In fact, he told me, Daddy Jango Twarom cause you the person came yesterday, like, no. They have to do a thorough body for any, and that is key. Thank you so much, viewer, for bringing that to light.
Actually,
the people we bring in our houses, even if it's a relative, you don't know where they have been. These things are here, Manawa, Muganda, that's bogus. Take everyone in your household for an HIV test. Know the status of the people, and this should be routine. There are friends of mine who knew that every holiday, as they come back home, the father drives them to hospital.
Yes.
When they are leaving back to school, because now there are many facilities, checkup is free. We have many hospitals, Care Uganda, even when you go to the blood bank.
Most of them is free. Actually,
so let's encourage people to test. And that's, I must thank that particular viewer. That's a very, very, very good one.
Okay, we do have a tour from Shamba here who's saying he's loving and loving the show. Consider bringing someone actually in regards to this topic. And we should have Flavia maybe one of these days to sit here and give us a further in-depth from her angle as a counselor regarding HIV/AIDS. What could be the role of ARVs is the question mark. Do they cure or are they cause? This is Joel Buhindo from Kasese.
Definitely ARVs do not cure HIV/AIDS. They don't. All they do is they boost your immune system against, or these other diseases that soften the immune system, because HIV/AIDS does not kill as a disease, but these other diseases that attack your body because your immune system is low are what causes your death. So ARVs do that. They are not a cure to HIV/AIDS. That is why if a person does not take them continuously, the moment they leave HIV/AIDS, I mean the ARVs, the immune system will go down, the CD4 count will go down, and any disease will take them on and kill them.
Okay, back to the the other challenge that is bring about one inequality in the fight against HIV/AIDS is the rule of law and this whole word human right. Isn't it becoming a killer disease in its own self?
But you see, human rights are a killer disease, really. But human rights are universal. But I want to say this.
No, but do you not think about it? I have the right to dress how I want. I have the right to do what
exactly,
I want.
And exactly,
to have as many
that's
sexual
what
partners as I want.
That's what I'm actually want to like zero down to. In the bigger orbit of human rights lives a subset of desire, lives a subset of purpose and vision, and that must be crafted individually, or on a family basis, or in a community or society basis. We know as a matter of fact that when someone in this country turns 18, they are considered to be out of the grade of minors. When did you leave your father's house? Was it at 18? I think these are some of the things that, away from human rights, there must be family rights. For me, that's why I'm sorry, it may be illegal for me to say this, but because we are dealing with a bigger problem, which is, but normally for us, we craft other rights out of the bigger rights. If you want, you see, human rights have never raised a child. I've never seen someone being paid school fees by human rights.
And today many are saying children are getting spoiled because of
I don't know. I don't know a place where at every end of month someone gets a salary from something called human rights. I don't know of a school where human rights pays for food, for tuition or university. So this thing of discussing abstract human rights without relevancy, we can talk about human rights in times of torture, but human rights in terms of dress code, you will be killed for nothing. There's some with respect. I'm being honest. I'm speaking about myself. It has its place. Let's discuss human rights in terms of access to education.
I think for me they are relative.
We can't discuss human rights when we are losing a generation.
A generation. That is very
what the hell is that?
Yeah.
So this whole thing of human rights, they should have their space. Like this conversation of the prostitutes. And you see, this is where we are judged as a society. As media,
you bring it up
as parliament.
You having mentioned it has sparked remembrance to when we were having in Laba Germany, the categories that were listed. The prostitutes won that category.
And that's what I'm coming to. That you have the parliament,
ladies of the night.
We have women activists in this country. We have, I don't know if we have men activists, but whatever. We have all these institutions. And then everyone is scared about confronting such a problem. Not that we want to kill them or imprison them, but can't we help them find other ways of life? These people need rehabilitation. I'm telling you,
right from the mind,
if you go to the streets, Priscilla, the girls on the streets, you won't find a 50-year-old.
Definitely.
Because no man is going to come looking to.
There will be market for her, definitely. But also for me, Felix, this is my opinion, and I've always argued over and over, onset with my colleague here.
And maybe, Robert, just to make clear, not that there's anything wrong with people who are 50 years old. You're beautiful and cute in your own ways, but not for the road.
Yeah, I've always said that I think when we got these human rights, yes, they are God-given, our understanding of them in one way or the other, as Africans, as Ugandans, there was something we missed. I want to remind you back when we had these women activists. Remember when we even told women to kick taekwondo, go learn taekwondo, hit the men.
There's even a debate about vagina monologue.
So I think there's something we missed. It was a dish served to us, a strange dish. We don't know even how it's eaten, either we are using a fork or chopsticks, but we all embraced it and we are now feeding
So in that regard, how can, different stakeholders, you do have the government, you do have the community, of course you do have the people that are infected with HIV/AIDS, you do have the health sector also having a role to play here. How can they each individually play a role in fighting against HIV/AIDS in this era?
One, I'll start with our communities. No, first family. Family first has explained that parenting is a full-time job. That minute you're going to drill or sleep on duty can cost you the life of your child. So dear parents, it is time to up your game. Then I'll go to the communities. These days we've relaxed so much because you think your very own are protected. But at the end of the day, it all catches up with you. This child you're talking about as a sport brat, as she even parades somewhere, because she's in the same age with your daughter, at a time they are going to connect. To government, first, we need to increase on the funding towards HIV/AIDS. There is so much dependency on the donor community, which may not be sustainable at a certain point. To the health facilities, we need to improve the care, the attitude, the mindset we are giving towards people living with HIV/AIDS. HIV/AIDS, we should condemn no one. We should be recipient enough. We should have the right information. We should advise people rightly for the health practitioners. And of course, I can't forget the media. Let's have the right message there. The message is, know your status. Go on HIV/AIDS, break that chain. It is you to break that chain, and we can end HIV/AIDS by 2030.
This does affect the social and economic status of the country in one way or another. Felix, an assessment into the initiatives, policies that have so far been implemented, and then measures in how to actually aid in ending this by 2030, possibly.
Yeah, I think by far, as a country, we have left it to foreign missions it is evident that the biggest players in the fight against HIV/AIDS have been foreign. This means that there is not much we are doing, and no wonder we are seeing escalation in numbers, because we feel that it is a foreign problem. If it is not an NGO, if it is not UN, if it is not, if it is not them. And I think for me that's the first thing we need to deal with. We need to appreciate this as our own problem and find a way of finding solutions. Okay. Secondly, government has a central role. It has a central role in terms of financing, in terms of the information, in terms of research. Third, I think it is now at a point where we must be able to train some doctors specializing away from general medicine. If we can do some research around HIV in terms of handling, in terms of counseling, in terms of all this social work and what, I think we must come out with such kind of craft. But lastly, allow me say this. HIV/AIDS is avoidable, is controllable, is maintainable. That means that you can prevent getting it, you can control getting it, and you can also maintain your life when you actually have it. Okay, just to look at some of your other responses. Good morning, UBC presenters. Thank you for this topic, and thank you for mentioning parenting as a factor in the AIDS issue. Is it possible to have a program with emphasis on parenting? That's a good one. We'll definitely pass that on to the responsible parties. We do have Chitaka Mayanja in Chivoga, who has also written to us, and he says, I have liked Felix's human rights comment. Thank you so much. Okay, Aboli, thank you so much for having been with us on Good Morning Uganda agenda, as well as Yasin. In conclusion, as we continue to celebrate World AIDS Day this day, 1st December 2021, our theme is ending inequalities, ending AIDS, and also ending pandemics. And one of the measures that can be used to tackle inequalities include community-led and people-centered infrastructure. That definitely will go a long way. Equitable access to medicines, vaccines, and also health technology, as well as human rights to build trust and tackle pandemics. Elevating essential workers and providing them with the resources and tools they need in the fight against HIV/AIDS. And that brings us to a conclusion of Good Morning Uganda agenda. At the end of the day, an informed mind is an informed decision. So make the right decision today.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
Raising voices.
I feel happy when my mother spends time with me. I hope all mothers will like my mother. I want my mother to reach out to all mothers. She knows how important it is to be a good mother. I promise to help my mother inspire other mothers to change.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Riding high after a rare victory in Turin, Giampiero Gasparini says no mistakes tonight as La Dea aim to improve a poor home record against an Arancio Nero Verde here to scalp another of Serie A's top sides. Atalanta v Venezia from the Guis Stadium. Cop Miners as the fans let themselves be heard. Through the legs, what a pass, what a goal. Clinical, they shred the Venezia defence. And inside the opening 10 minutes, Atalanta take the lead. Ilicic coming back inside. Here's Pasalic again, lays it off. Muriel returns it, he's in, and he scores. Same result. Venezia have no answer to Mario Pasalic. The second, not long after the first. As on the returns, he shoots, and Musso called into action, and it is a corner. Milicic, he's up against Ceccaroni, and comes away from him, and slides it through. Pasalic, this time Romero gets something on it. Such as Zanetti said, Pezzella. This is the opportunity Cop Miners wanted. And there in front of the Curva, the Dutchman scores his first Serie A goal for Atalanta.
Today is the 1st of December 2021. It's actually International AIDS Day. And I'll send a message to whoever is living with HIV/AIDS that we support you, we love you, and you can always live longer if you take your drugs on time, if you forget about the sickness and try to stay healthy and productive. My name is Ruben Machividango, and in sports we had the first player or the first sportsman to declare that he's HIV positive. That is Magic Johnson, the man who played for Lakers. Let's have this interview and get back shortly.
First of all, let me say good after late afternoon. Because of the HIV virus that I have attained, I will have to retire from the Lakers today. I just want to make clear, first of all, that I do not have the AIDS disease, because I know a lot of you want to know that, but the HIV virus. My wife is fine, she's negative, so no problem with her. I plan on going on, living for a long time, bugging you guys like I've always have. So you'll see me around. I plan on being with the Lakers in the league. Hopefully David will have me